Okay, now that we have set up our document, we are going to move forward and look at how to use the pen tool. So, a couple of reminders. We have two layers that we have added. The first layer we titled Sketch, and we imported our Nike logo that we are going to trace. We then added a layer on top of that and called it Trace. Now, because we don't want this design to be moving while we are tracing it, we're going to go ahead and lock this layer. Again, you know which layer you're working on when it's highlighted in blue. So in this case, I have the sketch layer highlighted, and I can toggle the visibility with this eye icon here, or I can click in the box next to it. If I hover, I see that it gives me the ability to lock the layer. This is what I want to click on. Once I see the lock icon appear, I know that the layer is locked and I can no longer move it around. This will be helpful when I am tracing. Now, I want to click the trace layer so that it is highlighted in blue because this is the layer that I'm going to work on. Now, a couple of things to be aware of. On the toolbar here, we have this black arrow at the top. That is the selection tool that allows you to move and resize objects. We have this white arrow that is the direct selection tool. We will use that in a second. And right below it is the pen tool, which is the subject of this tutorial. So we also need to be aware of our colors here. This solid box is the fill color, and this outlined box here is the stroke, which is another word for outline. So notice when I click on the pen tool here, everywhere that I click on the screen, it is going to add what is called an anchor point. Now, the little red line coming off of that anchor point is simply showing me the path between the point I just added and the point that I am about to add. If I click again, it adds another point and the line becomes solid. I can continue to click, and as you'll notice, the shape is filling in black because my fill is set to black. If I want to change it and have it be transparent, I can click on the None option to make it transparent. And I can click on the stroke and set the stroke to some sort of a bright color so that I can see it easily. Okay, so I'm going to pick this red color. Now, once I have this object selected, it probably should make the stroke a little bit thicker so it's easier for me to see. I'm going to go up to 4 points here. So up on the toolbar, you can see the stroke option, and I set it to 4. All right. Now I'm going to delete this item, and I'm going to grab the pen tool here, and I'll go ahead and zoom in Control plus. Now, I'm going to drop my first anchor point on one of the points here of the Nike swoosh. And I want you to notice, again, I'll start here. Once I have dropped my anchor point, I see this line that tells me where my next point will be. Now, if I just start to click and add anchor points around the shape of the design, you'll notice they are all hard edges, points, no rounded curves here. So I want to curve with the shape of the swoosh. And in my first pass, I just want to get close. It doesn't need to be exact. So I'm going to go here towards the middle of the curve. And to add a curved segment using the pen tool, I'm going to click and hold down my click and drag. And when I do, you'll notice these handles come out. And that allows me to adjust the curve of the line. Once I get it close, I'm going to let it go. Now, coming out of the other side here, the next point will automatically assume that I want this other side to be curved as well. I just need to get close here. Now, with this one, I am not going to click and drag because I want it to be a straight line coming out of this anchor point. So I'm just going to click, and now I have a straight line or a hard edge here. Click, following the shape of the logo. Now here I want this line segment to be curved again, so I'm going to complete the shape. Notice that once I'm anchored on there, I see the little circle next to the icon of my pen tool that tells me I'm completing the shape, and I'm going to click and drag to add a curved line segment. I'm going to get that close, let it go. Now, I'm noticing, obviously I have some problems here. This is where the direct selection tool comes in, the white arrow. So when I click on my shape here with the direct selection tool, it shows me all of the anchor points that I've added. Now with this anchor point here, I want to adjust the handles until the curve on this side is lining up. Okay. Now I have my shape pretty close here. I'm going to select it with the selection tool, which allows me to move it. So I'm going to move it down. And over here on the colors, the color option on the toolbar, I want to flip this so that the outline is transparent, the stroke is transparent, and the fill is solid. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this toggle arrow, the swap, fill, and stroke. And now my Nike swoosh is filled in red, and I can see that it is pretty accurate. Now again, when I am resizing in Illustrator, very important that I don't stretch my design and lose the integrity of the logo, the proportions. When I want to lock the proportions and resize, again, I'm using the black arrow, direct selection tool. I'm going to drag from the corner, and I'm going to hold down Shift to lock the proportions so that no matter how large or small I make it, it will be the correct proportions. One final thing to note, when I am making a file in Illustrator, I am creating a vector file, which means that the artwork I'm creating is scalable infinitely, meaning it can be scaled up and down without losing resolution. One thing we'll notice, the Nike swoosh in black, my original image that I imported, is a PNG, so it is a standard image file, not a vector file. And we'll notice as we zoom in closer here, you can see the closer we get, the edge on the PNG image file starts to break down and become pixelated, whereas a vector file maintains that crisp edge. Most of the time when you are sending a logo to be printed to a company that makes signs or does embroidery or any other kind of printing, they will request a vector file for this reason. Our next skill that we are going to learn will be the shape builder, and we will talk about further applications within the shape builder for the direct selection tool, and we will also talk about the direct selection tool again when we start to look at how to customize type.